And so let's move it over to the New York Yankees once again for our YouTube crowd, joined here by Eric Zimmerman, a.k.a. the Baseball Llama, my co-author of the Fantasy Baseball Almanac and Draft Guide. And of course, the Fantasy Baseball Almanac and Draft Guide, it's the most up-to-date, it's less expensive than everything else. You can find it on Amazon.com, and we keep it up-to-date. So it has the Mookie Betts trade already in there. We're going to be running more updates, and we give you direct access to updates via promo code and a direct line to both me and Eric. We don't have like assistants or whatever because we're not big enough to have assistants. So if you have any questions, you can email us directly on that as well. So link in the show notes below. Let's talk about the Yankees. So they're loaded. They're loaded, huh? They have a new pitcher there, which, by the way, all shaven up, he looks like the biggest goof I've ever seen in my life. Have you seen him in the Garrett Cole? Oh my gosh! Like, I feel like he should be doing my taxes. This guy.
We should have taken $297 million and asked for them to allow him to get to keep the beard.
I don't know if I've said this my whole life, and I still stick to it. I don't know that I could play for the Yankees because I don't like to shave. I really like if it came down to me getting $297 million and having to shave every day of my life, or like $250 million and not having to shave. I honestly would be looking at the $250 million. I honestly would.
I'm with.
I cannot live in that rigidity. And I respect the tradition and all that, and if that's what they want to do, God bless them. I'm cool with it, right? If they like to have these, because Don Mattingly wore the really like kind of thin mustache. All I'm saying is I am so far of a nonconformist, and I hate shaving. I hate it. If I'm making $300 million, I'd throw $30 million back into the pot to be able to shave, to grow a beard if I wanted to grow a beard.
Exactly.
A sloppy beard. A sloppy beard. Specifically like neck beard, not Jay Cutler, Andrew Luck in Europe, walking around, whatever he's doing these days. I want that Andrew Luck patchy neck beard. And I can't do that with the Yankees. I just can't. Anyway, so Garrett Cole, man, he's going to get... I mean, this team is so stacked. I feel like it's Yankees Dodgers all the way from me right now on the pick. But I think that injury to Severino, which we'll get to in a little bit, I think that hurts. But talk to me a little bit about Garrett Cole on this team if this offense can stay healthy.
Look, he figured something out in Houston. And it's not what the hitters figured out, so we won't go there.
Right. But, you can bang trash cans all you want in Houston, but that doesn't help the pitchers there. So
from that perspective, but yeah, I mean, look, he's going to see a little regression from last year. That's mainly because he's going into a ballpark where home runs, fly out, especially out to right field at a ridiculous rate. I mean. I think honestly, my son's little league field is deeper to right field. So he's going to see an uptick there probably, but I don't think it's going to change anything. He's not going to come out there and have an ERA of 4 all of a sudden and start getting lit up. He's going to win plenty. He's going to
strike out.
He's going to be an ace. He's going to be really, really good. I mean, as far as fantasy purposes, when it comes to starting pitchers. He's 1, 2, 3 with DeGrom and Scherzer. You can place him any way you want. I'd probably still stick with DeGrom just because I'm headstrong that he is. Him and Scherzer. Honestly, it has more to do with the ballpark.
I feel like the win factor. I think I would put Garrett Cole. I know we have him third in our rankings. Me personally, I think I would upgrade him over DeGrom, but hey, I mean, you're splitting hairs. That's the point, right?
Exactly. There's no wrong answer, really. If you tell me I could have any one of them on my team or on my favorite baseball team or whatever, I don't care which one it is. Hand him over, and I'm going to smile.
Yeah, right.
It's not going to change anything. He's going to continue to be what he has been. He's going to continue to be an ace, and he's going to be what this Yankee team has needed for a long time, especially now considering there's not a whole lot after him outside of Tanaka that can really make this team scary from a pitching perspective. At least
So last year in the middle of the year, Severino got waived, and I snapped him up and put him on my injured slot just to keep him over. And I thought, man, this is going to be fantastic. And then you broke the news, in addition to, I guess, the Sale news, which we talked about earlier in the episode, where he's going in for an MRI. So we don't know yet how that shakes out. But you dropped the news on me that Severino was hurt, and so I was actually able to change my keepers in that scenario. So that's good. But my season is going down the crapper as we speak. So I'm really going to have to nail the draft. I felt really good about this team, and I loved him. I loved him as potentially even a pitcher one. I know we had him in the kind of the tier 3, which for us the tiers work a little bit different. So we don't mean disrespect. It's just the way we organize our draft tiers in our book. To give you a little bit more strategery, as George W. Bush would say, to give you a little bit more strategic boost and maximize the value on draft day. But man, I thought he was going to be good. So yeah, like you said, there's a little bit of a hole there. What do you think the Yankees are going to do? You go basically now from Cole, you mentioned, to Tanaka. And certainly they have like J.A. Happ and all that, but he's never really fulfilled the potential. What do you think they're going to do with that hole in the rotation?
I mean, right now they're hoping Montgomery can come back and show kind of what he did a couple years ago when he debuted before he had to go for Tommy John surgery. They're going to stay in-house for right now, but they have some decent prospect depth, and they can go out and get somebody if they need to. Sure, there's a few options. I think someone like John Gray would be a really good add. And I don't think he'd be that hard to attain from Colorado. So there's some options out there if they want to attack it early. I think they want to see what they have first internally, and they can address that as the season goes on. They have enough offense to keep them around and have a really strong bullpen where they only need someone like Montgomery or Happ or Lois, Sonia, whatever his name is. I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce that one yet. I've never figured one out yet. That if they can get 4, 5, 6 good innings out of them, they've got that bullpen that's going to carry them the rest of the way. So,
yep.
I think they're okay to kind of start the season and see what they have.
Yeah, of course. They're going to be in the mix, right? So they can adjust in season, like you said, prospect depth. They can make the trades if they have to, and it's the Yankees, so they can incur salary and take take salary on if they need to. Let's talk a little bit about their hitting. Obviously, their lineup's loaded as well. I'm just going to name a couple of our higher tier players off: Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and I like DJ LeMahieu. And I'll get to him in a point because I know you think he's going to take a little bit of a step back. I like him regardless of whether or not he takes a step back, but I'll talk about that strategically. Why don't you talk about the combination there? Oh, and I forgot to mention Torres as well, Gleyber. Why don't you talk about kind of the top line guys there? I'll talk about LeMahieu, and then we'll see if we can find a sleeper as well for our listening and watching audience.
Yeah, it's funny. The first two guys you mentioned there, Stanton and Judge, are probably not going to start the season with the lineup. From the looks of it, Stanton's hurt again. And Yankee fans have to be just, banging their head against
right? Yeah.
Judge, looks like he may or may not make it for the opening day. They haven't really announced it yet, but he's dealing with some stuff. So, without those two guys in the lineup, yeah, it's a big hit. Luckily, they have Clint Frazier who can step in and kind of hopefully solidify a role there. But there's still some really good offensive pieces. Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, right.
Torres is, again, he's just 22, and he was outstanding last year. Love that guy. Luke Voigt can hit, although I think the strikeouts are going to be a problem for him, and he's going to get exposed a bit, so they might have to go platoon route with him. Urshela looked really, really good last year. Can he carry that over again coming out of nowhere?
Right.
Hard to say. And I think that's where some of the questions come with the Yankees is last year they had so many guys, Tauchman, they had Urshela, come up. You had all these guys that popped up and just took off. Mm-hmm. Somebody went down, someone else stepped up, and these guys were, not missing a beat offensively. Career years, whatever you want to call it, and can they replicate that? Can they continue it? Can these guys do that again? And it's a question. It is. It's lessened by the fact that, or we would be lessened if Stanton and Judge are out there. But you need Andujar to come back, and I think he will come back and be a very solid contributor as well. I think he's kind of the forgotten guy there. To be able to plug him in, he can play some first if he needs to. Obviously, he can play third. He'll DH, so they can kind of move him around a little bit. And I think they'll still be good. I think they're still going to score a lot of runs regardless.
So let me talk about LeMahieu for a little bit because I know we've been talking about this, and one of the guys, basically the guy in our keeper league that has him, keeps offering him to me for basically for garbage, right? He's asking for my best player now for me, LeMahieu, who I like, and I actually had him last season and traded this guy to him. I like him. Now, do I think he's going to take a step back? Yeah, I think it's probably likely. If you look at the law of averages, it's probably likely that he takes a little bit of a step back. But he does have more lineup support. I always like watching these players that go from one organization to another one that has a lot of, like, if somebody, let's just say the Dodgers have a new starting right fielder or something, I'm going to like him a little bit more just because he has lineup support elsewhere around him. So I like him, but what I really like about him, and I know you're thinking that I like his versatility and his availability at different positions, and while I do, what you and we've started working on basically a statistic engine that we're going to put in the book for next year. It's not here yet, but we're piloting this, and we're using our own teams, and specifically I'm using my own team as a guinea pig here, where it's heavily based on kind of competitive advantage at the position, and his availability combined with his ability to basically extend points relative to his competition. I actually like him as a value guy in the draft because I think you're going to get him in his slot low, but where he goes into your lineup, I think he's going to make up points relative to your competition. What I mean is, let's say you have Mike Trout on one team, and let's say you have, I mentioned, actually, let me just use an outfielder here, Aaron Hicks. Okay, so you have Mike Trout in here. You get, if you're playing it, you can think of Mike Trout's going to get me in a week performance an extra 10 points on average per week relative to this guy. And what I'm seeing is when I start to put these stats together, I'm seeing that LeMahieu, in a competitive advantage scenario, if he's in your starting lineup and you can put him and he has availability at second base this year, his competitive advantage over the rest of the other guys where he's being drafted can get you an extra 2 to 3 points per week. And that's a pretty good number. So again, we're piloting this, but my theory is that even if he takes a step back this year, which you predict and I'm not arguing with, I still think he's going to get you and your team more points in a given week than other people being drafted in that area. So I do like him as kind of, you can't really call him a sleeper because he already broke out, but I like him as a value pick where he's going with respect to ADP right now. And I'll give you another one, Eric. We didn't mention him in the rotation. James Paxton, especially with Severino going down, he didn't really perform to expectations, at least my expectations last year. He could take a step forward. What do you think about Paxton specifically?
Well, he's going to miss, I believe right now we're looking at probably about the first month of the season.
Just like every other Yankee, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's whether he comes back. The struggle I have with him is the constant injury history, and they knew that when they brought him in. Yeah. They knew he wasn't going to come in and post an ERA, under 3. I just don't see it happening in that stadium for the most part. But he's a very good pitcher. He's someone that you can probably get your hands on after the draft at this point, because I don't think anyone's really going to pick him up. Or if they are, grab at the very end of your draft in the later rounds and stash him in the, on your injured list. And you can just kind of carry him while you have the opportunity. And we talk about this last year a lot, and we'll talk about it again. Use that injured slot to yourself. If you have a guy you need to drop and pick up somebody like Paxton who's going to be out there that you can, or if no one drafts Stanton because he's hurt, stick him on your IL. Worst case scenario, you drop him if you need that spot for someone else on your roster, but use it to your advantage because
talk about buy low.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and like I said at the top of the show, Severino, I loved him. I absolutely loved him. I thought, especially being basically the starter 2 there with Cole, being the ace and him being the 2 and matching up against other 2s, man. I thought for sure he was going to be in line for about 20 to 24 wins. I really did, and so I'm a little pissed at the situation. But with that said, man, we've been talking about the Yankees for a while, so let's wrap it up here. Ceiling and floor. For me, ceiling is a World Series performance. You might disagree with me, but I think that's the ceiling. What do you think the floor is? And if you disagree with the ceiling, let me know.
No, I mean, that's absolutely the ceiling for them if everything comes back and breaks right with pitching. 100%, I think they could win the World Series, and they're definitely a team that I see in the postseason, no doubt, and one that they could easily make a run. Floor, like the absolute worst case scenario, Judge is out for extended period, Stanton doesn't come back, Paxton's delayed and really doesn't pitch well, all that stuff. Even in a worst case scenario, I can't see them finishing any lower than 3rd in the division, and that's absolutely everything imploding.
Yep. And that's
as well
and
as
that's still
very
And that's still fighting for a wild card in this division.
And
Yeah.
that's also dependent on everything going really, really right for Toronto.
Yeah, sure.
And the Rays for that matter. So yeah, I mean they're going to be right there. They're a good team. They're going to be a good team. And I know you mentioned finding a sleeper for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of hard to pick a sleeper, but honestly, the sleeper I'll give you for here would be Andujar, because I think he's kind of forgotten right now. We mentioned it earlier, but people are kind of overlooking him now. It's Urshela's job to lose at third base, so Andujar's going to do DH. He's going to go to first. He'll go to third. He'll play around, but he should be in there every day, hopefully. And I think he's a guy that just for some reason is forgotten because he missed most of the year and he was replaced well. He's going to be, people are going to sleep on him.
Right.
And he's going to be there late. I think I did a couple of test leagues that I do just for the heck of it. I'm actually doing one with my son. He wanted to get into one, so we drafted a team together.
Cool.
And, of course, I had to focus on getting, Freddie Freeman and Acuna.
Sure.
He's a big race. Not that that's a bad thing.
Sure.
But, in both of those leagues that I've drafted for just for the heck of it, Andujar's still out there. He's just sitting out there on the free agent list, so no one's touching him. So again, that's a very late round sleeper. Just add him to your roster and hope for the best.
There you go. All right.